Have you ever wondered what a business is really asking when they send you one of those little feedback surveys? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on how companies actually measure customer happiness. We're going to get into the science behind those readings, and we'll be paying special attention to a really important tool called the Customer Satisfaction Score, or CSAT for short.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the psychology of why you feel satisfied, or, not. Then we'll look at how businesses manage to turn those feelings into actual hard data. We'll check out the main tools they use, what makes a measurement any good in the first place, and finally, why all of this is so incredibly important for their bottom line. All right, let's get into it. First up, the expectation gap. See, customer satisfaction isn't just about whether a product is good or bad on its own. It's this really personal thing that all comes down to one simple concept: your expectations. Just think about it for a second. The last time you bought a coffee or a new phone, whatever it was, were you satisfied? What were you expecting to happen, and what actually happened? That little space right between those two things, that's where satisfaction is born. Or sometimes dissatisfaction. And that leads us right to the official definition. Satisfaction is an emotional response. It's that feeling you get when you size up what you thought would happen versus what really went down. It seems simple, right? But that idea is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. And this chart breaks it down perfectly. There are really only three ways it can go. If the experience falls short, you get dissatisfaction. The sources actually call this a service failure. If the experience is pretty much what you expected, you get satisfaction, which is fine, but it doesn't mean you're going to stick around forever. But when a company goes way above and beyond, that's the light, and that's where you build a real connection and loyalty.
Okay, so if satisfaction is a feeling, an emotion, how on earth can a big company measure it for thousands or even millions of customers? They can't just guess, right? They need a real, systematic way to turn those feelings into something they can actually track and improve on.
And that is where customer metrics come into play. Just think of them as translators. They take all that messy, subjective human feedback and boil it down into a number, a score, or an index that a company can actually use to make decisions.
And what's so fascinating is that these metrics show so much more than a simple score. They're like a window into the customer's mind. They can reveal their ideas, their attitudes about a brand, and whether they intend to buy again. They can even help build out profiles to understand why people buy what they buy. It's pretty deep stuff.
All right, so how does this work in the real world? It's time to open up the satisfaction toolkit. Now, there are a ton of different metrics out there, but businesses usually lean on a few core tools to get the job done, and each one has a very specific job to do.
And this gives you a great look at the heavy hitters. You can see CSAT, NPS, and CES right there. These are basically the big three you'll run into most of the time, and each one answers a totally different but fundamental question for a business about your experience. So let's kick things off with CSAT, the Customer Satisfaction Score. This is the metric for the here and now. It's a direct, in-the-moment pulse check. It asks how you feel about one very specific recent thing, like right after you finish a support call, or maybe after you make a purchase online.
And it almost always looks something like this, a super simple question rated on a simple scale, usually from 1, very dissatisfied, to 5, very satisfied. It's quick, it's easy, and it gives the company instant feedback on that one moment.
Next up, we have the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. Now, if CSAT is about the now, then NPS is all about the future. It shifts the focus from one transaction to your entire relationship with the company. This isn't just about being satisfied. It's about loyalty and whether you're willing to tell other people about them.
And I bet you've seen this one before. How likely are you to recommend us on that classic 1 to 10 scale? Your score lumps you into one of three groups: a promoter, a passive, or, a detractor. It's a really powerful way to gauge brand loyalty.
And finally, there's the Customer Effort Score, or CES. So we've got the now with CSAT and the future with NPS. CES answers a different question. How easy was it? It measures something we can all relate to. How much of a pain was it to get your problem solved? Because let's be honest, even a great product can be ruined by a difficult process. So, companies are collecting all these scores. CSATs, NPSs, they have all these numbers. But here's the thing, just having a number isn't enough. For any of this to be truly useful, the measurement itself has to be solid. It has to be well-defined, and it has to actually lead to some kind of action.
And our sources lay out 4 critical questions you have to ask about any metric. First, what are we actually measuring here? Is the definition clear? Second, how do you calculate the score? You got to know the math. Third, is it reliable? Does it measure the same thing consistently, and is it even measuring what it says it's measuring? And finally, the big one, how useful is it? I mean, can you actually do anything with this information?
And that brings us to our final, and maybe most important section. Why go through all this trouble? Why all the surveys and scores? Well, because customer satisfaction isn't just some nice fluffy idea. It is directly tied to a business's ability to survive and, hopefully, succeed.
I mean, this quote from the source material really just says it all. Happy customers don't just buy from you again, they stick around for longer, they tell all their friends about you, and they basically become your best marketing team. It's this amazing positive cycle.
And if you need the cold, hard numbers, here they are. The research is very clear on this. Getting a brand new customer costs anywhere from 5 to 25 times more than just keeping an existing one happy. Let that sink in for a second. That single stat explains why businesses are so obsessed with this stuff.
And that's really the whole ballgame. Focusing on making your current customers happy isn't just about providing good service. It's one of the smartest, most cost-effective strategies a company can possibly have. It cuts your costs way down and builds a competitive edge that's really, really hard for anyone else to copy.
And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Every single survey, every metric, all that data, it's all in service of this one simple goal: building positive relationships that create real loyalty and turn regular customers into your biggest fans.
So, let's wrap this all up. What did we learn? First, satisfaction is all about that gap between what you expect and what you actually get. Second, tools like CSAT are how businesses turn those feelings into data they can use. Third, measuring all this stuff is absolutely critical for keeping customers around. And finally, keeping those customers is just plain cheaper and smarter than constantly trying to find new ones. So that brings us to our final thought. The next time that little survey pops up asking, how did we do, you'll know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. You'll know the tools they're using, and you'll know just how much your answer really truly matters to them. So, what will you be thinking about their process? Thanks for tuning in.